Hi, good morning, everyone. Today is February 7th, 2023. Welcome to another podcast, courtesy of investingsuccess.ca. In today's installment, I want to continue my look at heliocentric Venus, and in particular, the four heliocentric incremental advances that we've been focusing on. Up till now, we've looked at them in the context of the S&P 500. Today, I want to take a nuanced direction. I want to look at them in the context of a commodity. And let's pick silver as that commodity. So by way of a refresher, Venus is the second planet from the Sun. It goes around the Sun in 225 days. We here on Earth are the third planet from Sun. We take a little bit longer, 365 days to go one time around the Sun. In the previous video installments, I discussed our rectangle pattern and the associated mathematics. So take a rectangle, the length is A plus B, the width is A. There will be a point, a single unique point in that rectangle where you can draw a vertical line and you can cut the rectangle. It's unique in that if you find that one right point and cut the rectangle, there will be a point where if you take the quantity A and divide it by the quantity B, that will compute to 1.618. That is what the ancient Greeks called the divine proportion. They also referred to it as the golden mean. They assigned a Greek alphabetic letter to it. The letter that they assigned to it is phi. So in your reading, if you come across the expression golden mean, divine proportion, or phi, that is a reference to 1.618, the one and only point in a rectangle where you can make a cut and invoke that relationship. Consider some math. Let's take 1 divided by phi. 1 divided by 1.618. What does that give us? 0.62. So what is 62% of a 360-degree circle? The answer is 222.5 degrees. So that is one of these critical heliocentric advances that I look for in Venus. Now let's go one more step here. Let's take 1 minus the quantity 1 over phi, and that's going to compute to 0.38. So what is 38% of a 360-degree circle? The answer is 137.5 degrees. So that's the second heliocentric advance quantity that I look for when I'm applying Venus to a price chart. Consider now the Hebrew alphabet. We would call it the alphabet. They call it alphabet. In the Hebrew alphabet, there are 22 letters. Assign a numeric value to these letters, and in the previous videos I showed how that was done. Now you can do some creative mathematics. You can take the sum total of all of those numeric values. You can just focus, if you wish, on the odd numbers. You can focus on the even numbers. Do a little bit of math. Take the sum total of the odd numbers divided by the overall sum total. Take the sum total of the even numbers divided by the overall sum total. The upshot of all of that is you're going to identify 2 more of these critical degree advances. They are 150.5 degrees, 209.5 degrees. So let's take these 4 critical points. Let's look at them in the context of heliocentric Venus. Let's overlay all of that on a price chart of silver. We're going to use as a significant start point the mid-March 2020 post-COVID panic lows after everything was utterly trashed we're going to take that low point on silver, and we're going to then apply these heliocentric advances. Now, before I do that, before I apply these things to any commodity, I always bring up a chart of the commodity and I look at it over a span of multiple years. So here's silver going back to 2012. And you can see in 2012, the price of silver got to $35 an ounce. What has it done since then? Well, the short answer is not a hell of a lot. Following the peak in 2012, it fell apart. The wheels fell off the wagon. It bumped along sideways right into 2019. It exploded after the COVID panic because the Federal Reserve was pumping massive amounts of liquidity into the financial system to try to prevent the economy from seizing up altogether. So not only did silver go radically higher, so too did a lot of things, including the equity market. Now, what have we done since that burst of liquidity? Well, take a look at the right-hand side of the chart. Not a hell of a lot. We're making a series of declining tops. Not what I want to see. I just finished watching a couple of YouTube videos again this morning where the person being interviewed was raving about everybody needs to own precious metals. Well, maybe, but I'm not seeing much of a compelling argument when I see a price chart that's giving me declining tops. That's not exactly a place where I want to be. However, that being said, take a look at the volatility on the price chart. And we're now going to use these heliocentric Venus advances, and we're going to see, do they align with these volatile turning points? And could a person potentially do some trading around these Venus heliocentric points and the volatility? Let's take a look. So from the March 2020 panic lows, I have asked the Optima software to kindly overlay the chart with 137.5 degree advances of heliocentric Venus. Let's see what it's come up with. The first one in June of 2020, yeah, you can argue that right after that, the price of silver started to gain some momentum, and it actually went almost parabolic for a while. So, there's an opportunity. September of 2020, it reached a top and had made a top and then a successive lower top. And shortly after this September 2020 interval, look what happened. It dropped from $27 down to $23. The interval that landed in November 2020 resulted in a swing low. The interval that landed in February 2021 was a swing high. And the interval that landed in May of 2021 was a broad topping pattern. So we can see again that Venus does a very credible job of aligning to these swing points. Take a look at the lower pane on this chart. That is the declination of moon. The declination of moon refers to the distance of the moon above our line of sight. There will be times of the lunar month when the moon is higher up in the sky. There will be times when it's lower down. We call these maximum declination points, minimum declination points. There will be a time when the moon is midway between the min and the max. We call that the zero declination point. And you're probably wondering, why moon? What does moon have to do with Venus? The answer is, I don't know, but I know this. Take a look at these various Venus heliocentric intervals. Let's start over at the right-hand side of the chart. Here it is, June of 2020. When did that thing occur? Right at minimum declination of moon. When did the next one occur? Zero declination of moon. The next one was at maximum declination of moon. So was the one after that. The next one was at 0 declination of moon. And again, I cannot explain this. It is something that keeps me awake at night, pondering the metaphysics and the wherefores of the universe, the mysteries of creation. But that is one interesting correlation that I have found with silver. Now let's take a look at the remainder of this 137 degree pattern of Venus. And yes, you can see, starting over at the left-hand side of the chart, there's a swing, another swing, a swing low in early 2022. In April of 22, the price of silver had been coming down. Right at the Venus interval, there was a little bit of an attempt at a counter-trend rally, failed. Swing low in July of 2022, another one in October of 2022. Most recently in January of this year, the Venus interval aligns right in the midst of this broad topping pattern, and silver seems to be wanting to work its way lower since then. Let's take a look at Venus 150.5 degree intervals. I'm not going to go through everything since 2020. I'm just going to show you the most recent handful of them here. April of 2022, there's your Venus interval over at the left-hand side of the chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days after that, boom, you hit a major turn, and the price of silver goes from $26 an ounce down to 21. Ouch, that hurt. The next one in July of 22, literally 3 days after, you made a little bit of what was a broad bottoming pattern, but then from that pattern, silver moved higher. In October of 22, there's a classic swing bottom. And again, in January, you've got this broadly declining topping formation. But look again at each of these occurrences, starting over at the left-hand side of the chart. Maximum declination of moon, minimum, maximum, 0. There's always this alignment to the declination of the moon. Let's look at the 209 degree intervals. May of 2022, swing bottom. September of 2022, the interval came right between what I would call almost a small double topping formation on the price chart. And again, most recently in January, we've got this rolling over topping formation. But again, the correlation to the declination of moon is intact. 0 degrees, maximum 0 degrees. Let's take a look at the Venus 222.5 degree intervals. February of 2022, yep, swing bottom. June of 2022, I'm going to argue there that at that Venus interval, that is when the price of silver broke a very critical line of support. And it also occurred right at the maximum declination of moon. And in November of 22, again, swing top, small one, but it occurred in conjunction with the declination of moon at maximum. So how do I take advantage of this, or how would you take advantage of this? I'm going to show you one possible technique. And again, understand that I am not your financial advisor. I don't know you. I don't know what risk you are comfortable taking, but I'm going to show you one in particular here. So we know that in February 2022, there was a Venus interval that was coming due. So let's suppose that you are sitting at home, you're watching the price of silver. It's the middle of January 2022. You see the price sort of grinding its way lower every day, lower, lower. It tries to recover, it goes a bit lower. You know that this point is coming, this Venus interval. So in the back of your mind, you're probably thinking, I wonder if there's going to be a turning point. I wonder if there's a trade here. Here's what I do. I use the derivative oscillator, and if your software program doesn't have it, look for something called the ergodic oscillator. It's a very similar tool. And what you're looking for is for the histogram bars to go from beneath the zero line to above. That indicates that the trend is changing. And I've got a green arrow at the time when it changed, and that's about the 9th of February. The other one that I will use, and I use these in conjunction with one another, is the slow stochastic. And we can see that as the derivative oscillator gave a hint that the trend was changing, the slow stochastic already said, yeah, the trend has changed. So you would potentially be a buyer then of silver at around the $23 mark, knowing that you're doing it at this Venus heliocentric interval. Look what happens. Let's say you did buy it at $23. Well, it actually had a run to just over 26. Not bad. Let's take a look at another example. This one is from November of 2022. So the price of silver is, it goes up, it gives it all back, it goes up, it fails, it goes up, it fails. You're watching this sideways pattern grind along, but you know that in the middle of November 22, there is a Venus heliocentric interval coming. And so you start to think, okay, it's going sideways, it's struggling. I wonder if I can catch one of these moves, and is it possible that one of these moves will coincide with some kind of a top at this Venus interval? Maybe. Well, let's take a look then as we get nearer to this Venus interval. Late October, my histogram bars on the derivative oscillator go from beneath the zero line to above. The slow stochastic at that point is saying, yep, trend is changing. So in theory, you would buy it at around, what is that, $18.50. The histogram bars remain above the zero line. The stochastic goes up, it takes a bit of a pause, and it works its way higher. You know that this Venus interval is coming, it finally arrives. What do? You've made money on the trade. Do you stay with it or do you get out of it? Notice that the slow stochastic crossed beneath the upper boundary line, and the histogram bars on the derivative oscillator crossed beneath the zero line. That's your sign to get out of the way. So what have you done on that trade? $18.50 up to about 21. Yeah, you've made a little bit. So again, you can use these to correlate some trades, but don't do it blindly. Always use at least 2 chart technical indicators. So to do this on a regular basis, you can get your heliocentric data online. There are websites that have tables of this stuff. You can also buy the American Heliocentric Ephemeris, and the one that I use goes from 2001 all the way out to 2050. So now, just remember that on silver, if we extend these various degree increments out into the future, the coming dates that I am focused on are April 1, April 5, April 17, and June 5. And this immediately has got my attention. I've got 3 of these intervals coming at me in April. That's kind of unusual. And so something potentially could happen in April. I don't know what. I hope it's nothing serious, but something could potentially happen. I'm also seeing in some of my other cyclical work that, involving other planets, the potential for something to happen in the middle of April. So my spider senses are tingling. I hope it's nothing serious. but I'm seeing things pointing to the mid part of April. So be careful out there, and just be don't get too carried away in some of your trading. Make sure you use stop loss orders. Protect yourself in the event of sudden reversals on the market. And so that brings me to an end then for today's little installment. Just remember that the Financial Astrology 2023 Almanac is out. This is my 10th year of writing this thing, and it is a handy reference to have with you at your desk. I talk about all sorts of cyclical patterns. I go into McWhorter methodology, quantum physics, quantum lines. I cover it all. It's available on Amazon. If you don't like a physical book cluttering your desktop, it's in electronic ebook format, Kindle and Kobo. If you don't like dealing with Amazon, you can ask your local bookstore to order it. And major booksellers in Australia, the US, Canada, the UK, they can find it, and they will be sourcing it from a publishing company in the US called Ingram Books. And lastly, don't forget my website is investingsuccess.ca. And you will notice on there that I am the writer, producer of, at the current time, 4 subscription-based newsletters. There's the astrology letter, which I've been doing for, oh God, it's almost 10 years now. The cycles report is a new one that I introduced in 2022. It's a lengthy one. It comes out once a month, but it's in excess of 30 pages. And I talk about the various cycles using Hearst analysis that I see unfolding on equity markets and commodities. The resource trader, I think that speaks for itself. And the last one, the newest one, is the mobility report. We are living in a day and age of changing mobility. We have electric cars powered by lithium-ion batteries. We have cars that are capable of autonomously driving themselves. I take a look at all sorts of stocks that are related to mobility, and I look at their IPO horoscopes. I try to identify what are the cosmic events that align to swing peaks and swing lows on these various stocks. And I try to make it such that the reader can use this data then to look for trade entry and exit opportunities. But again, always I show you how to back it up with chart technical analysis. So that's it for here and now. Thank you kindly for taking the time to watch this little video, and we will talk very soon. Have a great day. Take care.